Welcome to Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara. One part small talk, all parts real talk. This is the part of the day when Ajit gets to know the people behind the job titles at Tag.
Hello, my name is Ajit Kara and I'm the CEO of Tag Americas. I believe that every company's biggest asset are its people. And I'm very fortunate to work at Tag where I think we have amazing people. So I decided to do a podcast to really understand what makes them tick and who are the people behind the curtain, so to speak. This podcast series is produced by Kaylie Stansfield. Hi Kaylie, how are you?
Hi Ajit, I'm doing well. How are you today?
I'm very well. I'm still shocked that you have such a problem with tomatoes that I enjoy growing, by the way. Completely relevant.
I don't know what it is, my aversion to tomatoes. I think stems back to my days at school when it was, over 100 degrees or 40 degrees Celsius and the tomato cheese sandwiches went a little bit rancid. So I'm putting it down to that.
It's just when I see you eating a salad and you put all the tomatoes outside, I don't understand.
No, people have a thing about fruit and salad and I tell you, tomatoes are fruit.
Yes, I still don't quite believe that, but there you go. I'm sure it's biologically correct. I have a wonderful guest today. Her name, and I'm going to give this a really good go, and she's going to tell me off for getting it wrong, but her name is Samadnya Kulkarni. Was I anywhere close to that, Samadnya? No?
No.
Please correct me.
It's Samadnya Kulkarni.
Samadnya Kulkarni. Yeah. Beautiful name. I'll call you Sam. Welcome to the podcast. Cheers. Thank you for making the effort, because you come all the way from Canada as you work for our Canada. So thank you very much for being part of this. You don't mind me calling you Sam, do you?
Oh, no.
I should continue to give a go at it. And you are a fellow Indian, so I should know, but my family know that I'm pathetic when it comes to names, but it's actually a beautiful name.
Thank you.
So whilst you are from Canada, I've obviously given the game away. You're actually from India originally. So talk to me a bit more about that. So where were you brought up in India and how long ago did you come to Canada?
I was born in Mumbai. I was raised in Mumbai as well and practically been there all my life. Moved to Toronto 4 years ago. So I moved in the August of 2018.
Wow. So not long ago.
Yeah. It's just been 4 years, but feels like forever now.
You would not know that from the quality of your English, I have to say.
Oh my God. Yeah, no. It comes to me naturally because all of my education has been in English. And I've been asked this question before. Little did a lot of people know that it's not only the regional languages that we learn in, but we also learn all of the education, all of the subjects we do, it's all English.
And what made you move 4 years ago to Canada?
So that's an interesting story because I always wanted to move. I was fascinated by moving back when I was in the 9th grade. So when I moved to the 10th grade, I thought I'm going to move then. I'll finish my school, I'll move. And my mom was like, I think you're too young to move right now. I was like, okay, I'll wait a little more. So I finished high school. So I finished my 12th grade and I was like, maybe I'll move now. Didn't happen then. Finished my bachelor's, thought I would move then. And so this just kept getting moved to a few years later till back in 2017. I was like, I was working back in Mumbai. And I was like, if I don't do it right now, I don't think it's going to happen.
You do realize it's your parents' cunning thing to keep you from going. You basically picked up your bags and left. And did you have family in Canada or did you make the trip on your own? Or that's quite a brave, jump.
Yep, it was me by myself. I think I knew one friend in Canada. So when I landed, I crashed with her for a few days till I found my own place. And yeah, there I was all by myself.
It's amazing. And so, most people have an aspiration to be something when they're growing up. Your aspiration was to leave India.
Let's not put it that way. It wasn't that, but I did want to explore the other side of the world and see how that is and do that on my own.
And how have you found Canada versus India?
I love Canada.
And would you say that's your home now?
I do call it my home.
Yeah, how did you find that cultural transition? What was different and how did you manage it? I had one friend, but talk to me a bit more about the kind of surprise factor or the difference factor.
Honestly, the biggest difference was people. Going from Mumbai, that's so heavily populated, to going to Canada, Toronto does have a lot of people, but just seeing that difference, being the only person. There were days when I'd be on a call with my mom on a video call and walking on the street and she's like, where are all the people at? And I'm like, this is how it is. And I remember this was in the middle of COVID, and she's like, is this because, people are at home? And I'm like, no, this is how the streets look. And I got used to it by then. But then when I moved first, I used to be like, what is going on? Why am I the only one walking on the street?
And did you miss the noise?
Sort of.
I was always, because coming from, in India and Mumbai specifically, the noise assaults your senses, doesn't it? And, I asked my cousin out there that, they honk, even in stationary traffic, they honk. And it's nice. I said, but in the West, the honking in cars and vehicles is a way of an emergency, or I'm here. I think in India, he said to me, no, it's almost a way of how people drive, which is to let people know that you're there. That, it's an awareness thing, not an emergency thing. But my senses were assaulted when I'm there, and the noise, the honking is incredible. And then when you go to Canada, you must feel like you're in a silent zone.
Oh, yeah. I went from being so used to sleeping with noise outside. So when I moved to Canada, I'd be like, this is too silent. I can't sleep. And then I recently went back. I visited India a few months ago. And I was like, there's too much noise. I can't sleep.
What about the food? How did you find the trend? I mean, Canada does have, as I know, a wonderful Indian population, and so there's a lot of the spices and the transition of foods are there. But was there a transition in dietary things?
Yes, there was. There definitely was. I'm someone who never cooked. Back home, I never entered the kitchen. As much as I love food, I never entered the kitchen. I moved to Canada, and now even though you go to the grocery store, you can find the spices and all of that, but I couldn't make any of it, and I was a student first, so I couldn't order food on a regular basis. So yeah, that adjustment was insane. There were days when I did not know what to eat. I would call my mom and cry and be like, I need your food right now.
There you go. There is nothing like mum's food, is there? There really isn't. And then, so we'll come back to your career in Canada since then, but jumping back to growing up in Mumbai, what was that like, and what did you like about Mumbai? I mean, obviously it's the heart of the Bollywood film centre, and it's were you involved in that? Were you taken by that? Do you still enjoy Hindi films? And I'll come on to my own perspective on that in a moment.
Yeah, I've grown up with Bollywood. I think the first Bollywood movie I saw in a theater was when I was, 3 or 4, when I barely understood anything. But that was so fascinating as a kid. And yeah, that's definitely had an influence on me. That's how I moved to sort of working in that industry. Back in India, I used to work in an ad production house. So I still worked with a bunch of celebrities and did these TV commercials. And I feel like that's where my creative side comes from. That's
where the bug that became Tag started, was it?
Yes.
And and celebrities, anyone that we know? I mean, we probably don't know many Bollywood stars, but there are a few.
So I did an ad with Varun Dhawan. I don't know if you know who that is. There's Shraddha Kapoor.
I know the Kapoors. Is it part of the legacy of the Kapoors?
There's 2 different families of Kapoors, and she's from one of them. Let's just go with that.
Well, I had a mixed view about, Hindi films, in that when I was growing up, my observation was that they all broadly followed the same template, which is to satisfy the vast Indian population, was that there was a bit of humour, there was songs, then there was a family separation, then there was an emergency, then there was action, and then there was some long lost, cousin, brother, sister that they come together out of coincidence, and there's love, and then there's fun, and then there's a song. And they all followed that basic template, but it's changed a lot now.
So what's really fascinating coming to New York for me is a lot of these films are actually based, they've done parts of it in New York, or all of it is in New York. So this is actually the first time in New York.
Oh, wow.
And coming here, a lot of these Bollywood movies have been a reference point where in my head, I've gone to spots and I'm like, oh my God, this was shot here. I mean, that happens with the other English movies and the Hollywood films. But with Bollywood as well, it's such a reference.
You are in an iconic city where, it's very film friendly, and whether you're in the UK, the Americas, or India, or any other country, most films somehow have a point in New York. So what does it feel like being in Manhattan for the first time and exploring these points? Has it lived up to your expectations? Has it lived them down? Or what's your perspective?
Oh no, it's completely lived up to my expectations. I've been fascinated with New York for a really long time. And when I finally made it, I was like, this was worth it. Getting to the US took me quite a while. I applied for a visa, which Took 2.5 years to come because of COVID. That's another story in itself. But yeah, so it was quite a wait to actually make it here. And when I did, I was like, this was worth it. Like, I'm so glad that I finally was able to visit.
So your interest in film and producing, is that a passion of yours? And I didn't get to live some of that out with Tag and what you do, but tell me about your passion around film and producing and directing, because I can sense that that's coming across quite strongly.
Oh my God, I didn't realize that. Yeah, I absolutely, like I said, had a really big Bollywood influence. So growing up, I was always fascinated by how these movies were made or what went in. So as I grew up, I started learning more about it. And as I did, I was like, this is what fascinates me. This is what I want to do, which is how I worked in the production house. Even with Tag, I love the parts where I get to do the creative side of things. Be it just something as simple as creative concepting. I love those parts.
Yeah. Well, look, it's an important part of our business, and having folks like you that drive that is just amazing. And when you were growing up, what sort of skill sets and interests did you have apart from the film stuff? Did you have other passions and areas of excitement?
I did. It's not related to work at all. This is actually, I am a trained dancer.
Oh, wow. Well, it's the one thing that I can't demonstrate on the podcast, but we'll have to work out how. Tell me more about that.
Ajit, try.
Exactly.
No, so I started dancing when I was, I think, 5 years old, 5 or 6. I trained in a classical Indian form for about 9 years. After that, I moved more to the Western sides of dance. So I did hip hop, contemporary, street jazz, ballet for 8 months.
Goodness.
So I learned a whole array of dances.
That's amazing. I mean, obviously the classical Indian dancing is an astonishing skill set, and what drew you to that? Because it's a very hard thing. I mean, the precision of how you do that. I mean, how did you, was that a lot of practicing when you were a kid? And was it quite, almost I guess like ballerina where it's very Zen type, is it?
It was a lot of practice. When I first went for these classes, my mom took me to these. My mom, I think, really, for me, and I have a younger brother, for both of us, she took us to different kinds of classes to let us see what we like. She took me to the dance class. The first 2 times I went, I was like, oh, I don't want to go. I want to be out and play with my friends. I said that. And she was like, no, go a few more times. See how you feel. And I don't know what happened. I went for an entire month and I fell in love. And then I just kept going back. And I think I used to go dance, I want to say maybe 3 times a week. And after that, there was no stopping.
When I was growing up, my thing was swimming. My dad used to take me swimming 3 times a week. So I was doing swimming, nowhere near as much. Probably why I can't dance, but I can swim. But you can't swim, can you? Tell me about that then. That's a great segue, by the way. Yeah.
You know that. Oh my God. I love the water.
Yeah.
But I think this was in 4th grade. We went for like one of those school picnics. And I was really brave back then with the water. So I went down one of those water slides. And I have no idea where the rest of my friends were or where the group was. I go down that water slide and I don't come back up for about 30 seconds. Even though it was just 30 seconds, I drowned in that much time. And since then, I've had this crazy fear. So after that, my mom sent me for like swimming classes as well. I went for 2 and I ran back. I was like, this is not happening. And yeah, that fear is still sort of there.
I'm sure, yeah. It's traumatizing. There are certain things that always live with you, and even though I used to swim a lot, and this is a very silly story, but back to swimming 3 times a week, and it was in the 70s, and my sister, I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, my older sister used to take it upon herself to scare the jahibas out of me, and she took me to see Jaws. And you got to remember, in those days, that scared me a lot. And every time I'd swim, I know it's silly, I'm swimming in a swimming pool, but the music of the Jaws would always be in the back of my head as I'm swimming.
Oh my God.
That went on for years. I'm sure I needed some therapy for that.
Ask Ajit anything!
I've asked lots and lots of questions. You've been wonderful to talk to, but this is your opportunity now to ask me anything.
I might have 2.
Oh, 2-parter.
Unrelated, but still. Okay, we'll go with the first one.
Yep.
I've heard from the previous podcasts, and even right now, you do like to travel, right? So if you can pick your bags and go to the airport right now, where would you go and why?
That's a good question, because I do like to travel, and I do like to travel to different places for different reasons. And so many places that I go to, to see the history, whether it be, buildings and historical places or architecture, I love going to and exploring that. So it's a question if I'm going to go and explore culture, that's one thing, or if I'm going to go and relax. And if you're asking me to pack my bags up this moment and go to the airport, it would have to be, I want to go and relax. And so I think I'd go to Aruba. It actually is called their term is it's the happiest place on earth. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was a very happy place. And, they ironically have the third cleanest drinking water in the world. It's a very small island, but they have a desalination plant. So you could go to a tap on the beach in the middle of nowhere and you'll have fresh drinking water from there. And I just loved everything about Aruba. That will be probably my place to go to as of today.
Okay, that's fascinating. And now the second one.
Yes.
Can you say my name?
Can I say? It's a trick question.
That's the best question anyone's ever asked.
I'll try. Samadnya Kulkarni.
Come on, Sam. Tell us again.
And stop laughing. It's Samadnya Kulkarni.
Samadnya Kulkarni.
Oh, we should end this right now.
Samadnya, this has been a fabulous conversation, and I think you are an example of what makes TAG great in that, you've left your family only 4 years ago, you packed your bags and went to a strange country, you found a home in TAG, you've added huge value in what we do, you continue to want to explore different parts of the world and what we can do. So the inquisitiveness, the kind of open to challenge, and your general humour and good work nature. Yeah, thank you for being part of TAG, and wonderful to speak to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Join us soon for another episode of Tag Talks Happy Hour with Ajit Kara and learn more about the people behind the job titles at TAG.